And we're live. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you.
Everybody, welcome Jackie Mattox. She is the founder of Women in Electronics. It's unbelievable to have you, and it's very empowering to have someone in this industry. I've been in this industry my whole life, literally, because it's a family business, and now, and I come from a very woman-centric family, and I love to see the diversity and there being a vision and a mission and a company into the industry for women in electronics because there is a big diversity. Our company itself, 80% of our staff in Asia is women. And so that really resonates with me. In the States, it's kind of the opposite. That's just as we all know, the industry of electronics, but it's to build the awareness, what we can do. And I'm really happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
happy to be here.
I'm really
Thank
happy to
you.
have on the show and what we're trying to do in the awareness. So, Jackie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got electronics, and where women in electronics came from?
Okay, so it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it short. So I just kind of fell into the industry like a lot of people did. Didn't seek out a career in the electronic component industry, but happened to get a job rec at the Career Center at my college. And I had been in broadcasting and radio, TV, film. I was working with the studios and
So you're natural at this. You're
no,
natural.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. It's
Oh
what
yeah.
I wanted to do, and this is kind of fun to be able to
Mhm.
do this because it kind of takes me back to some of my roots, which I originally wanted to start in. But anyway, I just fell into it. Got a job rec at the college and got hired by a man named Leon Unger, who's one of the original radio pioneers, who knew at the
Yeah.
time. And anyway, I just started calling on these distributors called GLDs, General Line Distributors. And
Mhm.
at the time, I was up in LA. And these were like you would go to these stores and you could buy little parts for whatever audio equipment you were working on or
Building
whatever.
a new
There's
gadget, a new widget, and yeah.
whatever. There's a lot of video and audio guys
Mhm.
up in that area. So they had all these retail stores where you can go buy actual little components. So that's how I got to learn the parts was by stocking shelves and doing all
You started from the
reordering. And I
basics. Oh,
started
and
from
from ground
ground
zero. Yeah.
level.
The inventory
Yes.
side building up. That's fantastic.
Yes, and so the company I ended up working for, English Technical Sales, bought Unger Sales, and
Okay.
so I came over to that side and started getting into outside sales. At the time, I knew nothing. I really was not a technical person, still I'm not a technical person, but I had the capability to learn. And so I did, and the part of it I really enjoyed was interfacing with the
Mhm.
customers. I would be excited about the end user products when we would actually design something in
Yeah.
and get them help and get them everything they needed. And then voila, there's this cool, end user product that
Mm.
would develop. And so I kind of got addicted to that. I liked being an outside salesperson, learned the industry, met a lot of people. And then I fell into distribution because I really enjoyed the relationship aspect of distribution. Who knew at that time all those contacts I would make would help us now in this effort for women in
So the
electronics.
network, how you built your
Yeah.
network, which you didn't even know you're building your network, but that's really fascinating. Where that you started from the ground, the parts. As myself too, I can. That's really started as we have a family business, and my father first thing work in the warehouse, learn the parts, learn what you're
Mhm.
doing, learn what everything is. I think that's really how you build yourself to understand the product because it's not just a part number.
Right.
Yeah, and you learn how to put it into what goes into each gadget. And as yourself of being probably you were also a pioneer as the one, very few women back then were the sales. As a well-dressed professional woman comes in to sell, and and I can say of your mannerisms, you're very, electric. And everybody wants to talk to you. And if you know what you're talking about, you're very successful in persuading the salesman.
Well,
Yeah.
and I have to say, I was so fortunate because I
Oh,
had so many great mentors who mentored me up. And, I actually, my customers were my biggest advocates. So I
that's
would
great.
go to them and say, I need your help with this. And they'd help me and I get the business in the meantime. So it worked out. I loved the relationships I built. And then after a while, I had a career in the industry and then decided to stay home with my kids for a long
Okay.
period of time. My husband was traveling the world. And it really worked out for me. And during that time, interestingly enough, is I have a son who was having more learning issues at
Okay.
school. And so I was part of an effort behind a charter school that got started here in Orange County and ended up being a school that could serve all children's needs and that they didn't feel special. And it ended up to be a very high performing school. But in that process of aligning with other women who had this mission to create a school for all children that everybody was equal. That I fell in love with, and seeing it could be successful, that brought my confidence to start Women in Electronics when I came back into the industry. That came from.
That is an amazing story, and thank you for actually building a platform, and much gratitude for building a school and being involved with that. Because as a father myself, the education of having, doesn't, as I said, I'm talking about, I don't know if they're going to be the smartest kid in the class or they're not the most sharpest kid, but having a platform they can excel, or having a tool or a school that can help them, assist them to be the best version of themselves, is fantastic. And I love how that's embodied, how the message of Women in Electronics and how this all brought together. And
Mhm.
that's amazing. I mean, I didn't know that. I hope people learn. Some people probably do, and something, I hope people. That is the inspiration behind it, and
Right.
it's also very engaging on that.
And it
So
comes down to confidence. So I
yeah.
could say that's one of the things, and we'll go into the story about
Mhm.
Women in Electronics and what we're all about. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to confidence. If you look at children in school, it comes down to confidence if
Mhm.
they perform well or not. And if you look at women in business, a lot of times we don't succeed is confidence.
Mhm.
It's not that we don't have the capability, it's that we don't have the confidence. So, part of our mission with Women in Electronics is to reach as many women as we can in the industry at all levels of their careers and all aspects of the
Mhm.
channel, by the way, to help build that confidence. And what we're finding is it doesn't matter what level you are in your career. When you are the only woman in a boardroom of 20 men and you think differently and you know and you can sense the crowd and you know your idea is different, a lot of times what's missed when you don't have that female energy is that difference of opinion, it's that inclusion, it's that diversity. So a lot of times you can make a quick decision when you have like-minded people, but you don't know what you missed in that gap. So it's getting the women to understand it's incredibly important to speak up, because what they're not saying can sometimes cost the company a lot, but getting past those barriers sometimes can be really difficult. So it's training.
I gotta agree. I mean, that's I'd make it very simple. I say the women are the color to the men's black and white. And that's really, I mean, to put simplest analogy of form, that's really what it is, because there's many ways to look, and many different angles to look into a problem. Is there problem solutions, but there's many solutions that sometimes when you have one diversity or just men and one or women, you don't see all the solutions out there. You're kind of closed off. And I think the last 20, 30 years of what's changed in the empowerment coming in the women's empowerment, and it's it's extravagant and it's fascinating, and you can see all the leaders these days of the women companies. My like
Mhm.
my wife is a leader. She's a founder, CEO of a cosmetics company, and she's a leader. But she had to go through that, just
Yeah.
like you said. She had a lot of
Yeah.
challenges. She was in corporate banking, very all men. She was in corporate banking, and she had to go through that. And her vision was cosmetics, and she went to that field, but we she had to go through a lot. And now, as like yourself, she speaks to women empowerment, how to make
Mhm.
yourself professional. And but again, you hit the nail on the head when you're the only woman in the room with uh, all men. And how do you stand out? How do you also sometimes you censor yourself not to say the wrong thing because you don't know, you get pointed out, because it doesn't matter what room you're in or where you're on. You could be all women and with one man. The same thing. I get a little.
Yeah.
I'm not as confident. I'm like, oh, it's all. I'm going in here, and as my wife at some of these events, I'm like, it's all women. I don't just want to be the
Yeah.
only man in there,
It's
but I experience it too, and I know how it feels. So I can
Mhm.
imagine how it feels a woman in an all men's conference or room like that.
Well, and I think the important thing is for people to understand too is we want to align with the men.
Mhm.
We don't want it to be like, oh, this is a women's movement and we're just charging forward and we're just bullying our way ahead. That's not who we are. Who we are is our acronym is WE, we.
We
We want to be we with the men. We want to be
correct.
together. So we believe that the magic is together. It's not apart. So we thrive with that support from the men, and we know that the men sort of thrive with the support from the women. We typically, women are more detail orientated. We can think about a lot of different things that the men sometimes don't see, and vice
Yes.
versa. So the magic is us coming together,
Yes.
right, and working together. So that is the whole premise of we, women in electronics, is not just women in electronics, it's ultimately
The we.
as an
100%.
industry.
I mean,
Yes.
that's one thing as you came from establish the goals of the empower, develop, advocate, and celebrate, right?
Yes.
That's a very powerful, every one of those is very powerful words. And I love that you said that as your mission statement. And I know you have other women on your board and you
Yes.
guys came together. Did you have I think it was 3 or 4 of you that came together first with me? How did it all develop?
So here's how it started
Mm,
is when I came back into the industry
mhm,
and noticed that I was still one of the only women at the executive conferences, and I was still one of the youngest ones, which kind of scared me because I was going, wait, where's all the youth?
mhm,
So I had this idea to pull some women together, and only because I had done that, had that experience with the school, it was
mhm.
20 women.
Yeah.
And so that was my idea in my head, 20. So I wanted to pull 20 together from across the country. Some women I knew, some I didn't, but people who had a little influence in the industry, who had some maturity in the industry, who knew people in the industry. And I just wanted to see what was the sense. Was something like this of value? Is this something we need? So most of the people who came, I didn't know. It's just kind of word of mouth, meeting somebody through somebody, making sure they were credible. And then 20 women showed up. And I'll tell you, it was in Laguna Beach in 2017. I actually couldn't believe it. It would be like, they all showed up for my birthday party. It was like, I couldn't believe they came because they traveled from the East
Wow.
Coast, they traveled from all over, and they really had no idea what to expect. And they had no idea who I was. So I was actually shocked they came. And so it showed me, maybe there is a need because they're coming, number one. So then we had a program of a day and a half, and it was amazing. We had speakers lined up that were there to set the tone of what this organization could be about. It was about our fear in the boardroom.
Mhm.
It was about overcoming obstacles. It was about uniting with the men and how to do that. It was about a lot of personal and professional development. So in that time, it was kind of magical, I have to say. And after that day and a half, we all agreed together as a group that we would start Women in Electronics. And the two other people actually that are on the executive team with me are Monica Highfill from Kemet
Mhm.
and Amy Keller. She's now with Abercon. And I just have to say, I don't know, it wasn't me who selected them. It was like a divine intervention thing. I didn't know Monica so well. I just knew she was the one. I
Mhm.
didn't at the time. I had seen Amy speak at an EDS event, and I just knew she was the one too. And the three of us together have been like a magic secret sauce. And so, how it operates is we have our executive team, and then we have our board who helps to implement all of our goals and objectives.
That's fantastic. I mean, that is an amazing story. It's very empowering. As you said, you put an event together. You didn't think anybody was going to show up. You had basically a kind of full house. Very empowering for you. That's where it lit. That's what Launchpad was. It
Mhm.
lit it, and then the universe brought you three ladies together.
Yes.
And now, I mean, look, what 3 years now? It's gone. When's it?
Yeah, it started in 2017,
So
yes.
3 years later, now, and you have a name in the industry. I mean, as I said, I was at the ERA conference, and that was the first time when I started researching women electronics, it looks like you've been around for many years, but it is a short time, but time goes so fast.
Right.
But there is an awareness out there. And that's the biggest thing that I want to build up more because there's thousands of people in electronics from the manufacturing side to distribution, representatives that everybody needs, there's an awareness and that there's an empowerment. And there is a place that, if, as I said, it's the diversity side, ask
Yes.
questions, a place you can ask questions, empower, and make them, as I always said, the quest to make the better version of yourself, the Mamba mentality that we for Kobe Bryant, but that is a quest to make a better version of yourself. And
Mhm.
every woman, as a man, needs a platform, or as I say, kind of a life coach.
Yes.
I really believe in life coach. I have a life coach. I have a
Mhm.
business coach myself that I think the last couple of years has really changed my vision, my direction, because sometimes you get lost in your head,
Right.
and as you say, for the women's side, having a place to go,
Yeah.
a vision as yourself, as being a great leader in this, I think that really shows the empowerment that you've done and how we, everybody together, men and women, which I
Mhm.
love that, is bring it together and how we can make the awareness in the electronics field and into the industry.
Right. And so really, having said that, we do have some main objectives, and we
Mhm,
do get some coaching, by the way. I'm so blessed and happy to say that we have a great advisory council who are people outside of our
mhm,
organization, men and women who make up our advisory council. So we have Michael Knight on there, Phil Gallagher, Kimberly Appleton from On Semi. We have Linda Johnson
mhm.
from DigiKey. We have a couple out of industry people as well on there to kind of keep us in
Yeah.
check. We have Lennon Clark from Merrill Lynch and a gal named Taya Page from ITA Group. It's like a marketing
Okay. Yeah.
event company. We have Alan Bird on
Mhm.
our council. So and now Lynn Terrell as well. So we have an amazing out of organization council that we meet with quarterly, and they are there to kind of be our eyes and ears in the industry and to tell us, okay, yes, you're doing great over here, and maybe consider some things over here. I feel like we get really good mentorship.
Correct. That's
And that is such a critical part of our program as well. So, if you look at our four main goals, we'll start with celebrate. That is one of the most critical parts of our program is women celebrating other women. So what happens when you have a male dominated industry is women start to compete and they don't always support each other. And so women can be other women's biggest block. And that is really still honestly one of our biggest stumbling blocks. I think there's a little misconception about women in electronics. Most of the men seem to be pretty well on board, and especially once they talk to us and they find out more information, they seem motivated by it and they seem inspired and they seem really on board. Not all the women, because they don't want to seem, and this is a smaller percentage, but the rule of the game is it's the small percentage that affects the
big
mass.
mess.
So it's that small percentage we still have of women that really are competitive and block women and maybe don't want to feel like they're aligning with women because that puts them against the men. That's a misconception. We want to be together with the men as well. So we don't want to be seen as an organization is that if you're aligned with us, you're against men. It's actually quite the opposite. And I get criticized sometimes of being promoting men so much, but I'm going to be genuine and honest to who I am. So I love people. I love men and women. My father was my first mentor who's was the best mentor anybody could have. I've had amazing male leaders in my life. So I had a great career in the industry and still do, and have been supported by amazing men that if I wasn't, I wouldn't be here right now. So I want to celebrate them. And I want to celebrate the women also who deserve to have that career as well.
I mean, I can think that is right when you start from the beginning, from the education of women and being competitive, women being competitive with each other. It is,
Mhm.
but also comes to education of oneself to
Yes.
understand our fault because there's some very driven women, there's some very driven men. But the number one thing I think is sometimes they're overconfident of themselves and they don't let people in because sometimes their weaknesses they turn into an I would say sometimes it's negativity that they
Yes.
don't want to understand their own weaknesses that they have. They might be
Mhm.
good at one thing or something, and then they have other weaknesses. People like poking at them. They think
Yes.
people are poking at them. So that's number one thing, even for our team, is we're one IBS. Everybody's a family, we work together
Mhm.
globally, but we still have those challenges. Is how do we educate the staff? How do we go through the education process to know oneself,
Mm.
to know the positives and weaknesses, and we do actually give some types of for the management as well, give some types of analytical exams for people to learn about themselves. And that's one
Mm.
thing I think that that really resonates with what you're trying to do is educate the women. And as you say, sometimes the women are the most competitive than the men. Men are competitive, but
I'm actually surprised as I'm going
yeah,
along to learn more and more, but really it's about personal and professional
mm,
development because if you don't know your own biases, and we all have them and it's not wrong, it's just a way we categorize information in our lives. We just have to catch ourselves and know when we're being biased, know ourselves enough to be self-aware. That's all it is. So it's the personal development and all your unconscious bias, all your emotional intelligence. Everybody has their weak spots, right? All of us do. We're human beings. So it's a matter of learning those weak spots so you can pull that into the professional world. When you're managing teams and you have conflict, you have things that arise, how do you pull that together? Well, if you're not a developed person personally, it's not going to go very well. So we like to
mm,
focus on both personal and professional development. Traditionally in our industry, it's been all professional. But we're finding as we're going along, especially this day and age, you really have to have all yourself in check in order to be the right leader. And the female traits that come to the party, the traditional female traits, empathy, compassion, are prior times might have been considered more weak traits, and now moving forward are really strong,
They're
critical, and
powerful.
essential traits to have in a leader, is to have that empathy and be able to lead with compassion and still be a strong leader. So I think that we as an industry as a whole, men and women, can learn these things, right? And learn together. There will be a time we have some type of programming where we want to pull in the men, because so many, like Michael Knight, so many men are saying, wait a minute, we want to hear this too. We want to learn too. So we will put that together. Right now, we're focusing on the women, and we're always going to be an organization that really does support women and gives them a really soft place to fall
Yeah.
in the industry to help retain them.
I loved how you put that. It's a very simple analogies. Like there's the oneself as the personal, and there's a professional, right? Someone might be very professional in things, but the personal self isn't developed because as in schools these days, in schools, everything's team based.
Yep.
So people don't have the such team. They are there's no I in team, but they are the I, and that is the challenge. Even though they might be successful in something, but they're not. And as management's more horizontal these days, it's not as vertical. Everything's more and more horizontal. A lot of communication, everything's out there. There's much more empowerment. Affirmation is there. Everybody, but that is really changing the workspace. And just with your message that you put there is understanding
Yes.
each other, understanding oneself,
Mhm.
and not criticizing each other, but understand, hey, there's something we all need to work on. Something we're not. No one's perfect. Just like you said, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. Every day, I learn something new, but I put an effort into it, and that's
Mhm.
what we want to say is the status quo of yes, I've done this. If you stay status quo, you're going to get left behind, especially in today's age, the digitalization revolution. And I love that you're also embracing that and bringing to the
Right.
forefront. So that's fantastic. Not going into the, as you say, you got to celebrate, you got to advocate, to develop, and empower.
So going back to the advocate,
Yeah.
that is a critical part of our program. And so we're so proud of this mentorship
Mhm.
program we put together because it's an industry wide program. So when we first started it, we wanted to put something together that could be modeled
Mhm.
after another program that worked really well. We went out across all industries. We met with consultants. We could not find an industry wide mentorship program. And we thought, oh, that's interesting. Well, let's put it together. So we did. So we took the best of the best. I had been through a couple mentorship programs. We had some team members that had Monica Heifel from Kemet. She's been amazing. She's been really the champion behind this program. So we sat down and put this mentorship program together, and it is managed so incredibly professional and well. I'm so proud of that effort. Right now, we're in the pilot. And so we connected people that didn't know each other in the industry who now have relationships. And what we're finding is that women typically don't get mentored up as much as men do. And the reason why is our unconscious biases. Because wouldn't you rather spend time with somebody who's like you?
Like-minded, more like-minded. The
It's
as you say,
easier.
the bro relationship. The thing these
Yes.
days, it's like I know, you know, I understand.
And there's
Yes,
nothing
yes.
wrong with it. There's nothing bad with it. But guys, let's go have a beer.
Let's
Let's
have a
go play
beer. Yeah,
golf.
yeah.
Let's whatever. So that's why women in electronics is so
Mhm.
critical and important, because we're not going to have that beer. We're not going to the golf course with the guys. We're not doing that. We're not going on the fishing trip. So we needed to have a space for women to call home so we could retain them and they feel safe and secure and like they have a place in the industry. So that's a critical component. But the mentorship program, connecting people in the industry, is one of the best things we could be doing for the industry. And actually, we're going to start pulling in men. We're going to pull in as many male mentors as we can, because we want our women to have access to men and women mentors in the industry. So very excited. The pilot has gone amazingly well. We have a 97% success rate with it so far. It's so exciting. So in September is going to launch our next wave of mentorship program. So anybody listening, if they wanted to, they could go on our website, womenelectronics.com, go to our mentorship section, and they can fill out an application to be a mentor or a mentee. And by the way, we really want to change the way that we're doing mentorship. So it's not only the person who's more mature and experienced, it's also I want to learn from somebody who's younger, who knows how to do the social media, who knows how to do everything that I kind of missed those years. So we're looking into a reverse mentorship program as well. So this can benefit everybody. So
Well, it's
if
well-rounded, as that's saying. You want to round it up.
yes,
Don't just go from, yeah, very
yes,
experienced senior leaders.
yeah,
You want to well-rounded because there are, yes, the millennials, we got the X, I'm an X, for that point. There are different avenues, and everybody's got these special days because there's so much information out there.
yes.
Some people excel much on the social media aspect, digital media. How is it going? Everybody puts themselves out there in front of a video camera. Everything has changed, and we
Hmm.
have to, and how you're in those mentorship programs. I love it that you're trying to full 360. It's not
Hmm.
as in it was one side. I think a lot of mentors in the past were kind of one sided, just having
Right,
leaders that have excelled or CEOs
right.
and now you're like, okay, let's do a 360. And I think that's fantastic. I love that idea. I mean, I'm 100% behind it.
Yeah. So if you're a seasoned professional and you're not, Michael Knight was just on our We Radio.
Mhm.
We have that podcast too, by the
Yes,
way, Women in
yes.
Electronics. You could download that on your wherever you get your
And so
podcasts,
you have it, yeah, you have it on Spotify. So it's on Spotify, on
iTunes,
iTunes. It's
TuneIn.
TuneIn, BuzzFeed. I think you have it. Do you have it on
Buzzsprout is where
Buzzsprout?
it
Buzz,
comes.
sorry, but yeah.
That's who hosts it, but it's all the wherever you get your podcasts, you can basically download it. So
Okay. And do you also have a YouTube?
yes, we do. We
Okay.
do have a YouTube as
Okay.
well. So, but our website has everything,
Okay.
all of our
Good.
podcasts, everything's on there. But we had Michael Knight on the show, and actually, right now we're in a 4-part series, and this has actually been such a fun project to interview Don Akery, and then now Michael Knight, and we've had a lot of leaders, Phil
Mhm.
Gallagher, a lot of leaders in our industry on our program. It's been super fun. But Michael said something that really struck me is he said you have to stay curious, and he talked about that a lot. And if you look on social media and you see all the content and the very credible content he puts out, there's something to that we all have to learn from, is that what happens when you stay curious. So just because you're seasoned in your career doesn't mean you can't learn again, doesn't mean you can't do things different. So we also need to be learning. So if you're a mentor, maybe take the next session to be a mentee and vice versa.
Yeah,
So that's
you hit the nail on the head. I just had a podcast with my father last week. He's the same thing. He's very information and knowledge equals success or revenue, money. As he
correct.
said, and it's being curious. It's also continuously learning
Learning.
every day. And now today,
Yes.
from our handhelds, everything is from a
Yep.
handheld. We can pick up our handheld and get that data
Yes.
instantly. So there's no more. I mean, books are there, but now books are audibles,
It's
digital, right in your car. You can listen to these. And I must be with Michael Knight. He is every day. He puts out some interesting content.
He does.
Yeah, and that is because as I said, if he sometimes something fascinating, he articulates it, and as I told him, he articulates something very complicated, makes a very simple format,
Yes.
and shares it.
Mhm.
Which that's as a leader, that's
It's
what we do.
important.
As yourself, as a leader in women electronics, is you do that yourself. You take a lot of complicated, complicated subjects,
Mhm.
things are sensitive subjects, and simple, articulate them for simple so everybody understands because not everybody has a different learning patterns, right?
Right.
Learning patterns and how we encode, decode information is
Mhm.
different for all. And for men and women, it's different. I decode information completely different than yourself. So everything comes in and the words, the vernaculars, and it makes a big sense. That's why I think audio or video these days is very powerful because it kind of symbolizes it. And
Right.
sometimes someone reads a script or a paragraph, we 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 interpret it two different ways,
Right.
and that's why we can explain having a back and forth and explain to each other. It's very powerful. And I love how you simplify that and bring that into the women electronics mission.
Mhm. Well, and really, as women, when one rises, we all rise. But as women rise, men rise too,
Mhm.
and vice versa. And that's just how it's got to go in the industry moving forward. Is just we have to rise together, right? And so part of helping to make that happen is our develop. That's one of our other goals is our leadership development program. And that is personal and professional, like I said. So once a month, we have a professional trainer. Once a month, we have somebody from, a health and wellness
Mhm.
or something, some other aspect of your life. It could be, dressing professionally. It could be whatever. But we need to pull both together. So we're really proud of that program because I feel like we have great trainers. We're also putting together an industry-wide leadership training that it touches on the diversity and inclusion. It gives companies a good base of what they should be looking at. So we are in the process of creating that as well. That will go out and bring this package, to the industry. So if they are not currently doing that, they'll have access to something.
And I love how you put the health and wellness into there because I think that's a very critical point of success or of the work life these days, work life balance. I think everything. I don't think
Yes.
there's work life balance, but it's also having health and wellness
Yep.
and it brings the stress levels down, the mental stability, and sometimes they look good. You feel the part, you know feel good, but it is to really education having also a platform so people because our company itself does some health and wellness for some of the our offices, and we try to give a program or wellness or have a competition but not everybody likes to participate, as you know,
Right.
it's different. But as if you can also be have that type of platform, bring a speaker from the health and
Mhm.
wellness, dieting, or just how to stress level, how to bring stresses down, or how these
Yes.
type of things that again, it's information and knowledge. And you have to spread the message. And it's, in my opinion, it's repetition. You have to be repetitive because a lot of people don't take it in.
It's so true. And it's awareness and it's self awareness.
Yeah.
So, what we're finding is that not all companies give this type of training. So, that's why, especially for women, it's really important because we're trying to reach, say, that inside salesperson or product manager, somebody who's not invited to a lot of these leadership
Mhm.
development trainings and doesn't have access to that. So, we feel that our program is incredibly very it's such a good value for the money that you pay. And if you're investing in your career, it's just really one of the best things you can do to get your feet wet. And then from there, it just opens the door to a lot of other opportunities. So we're encouraging all women from all aspects of the channel to come into the Women in Electronics organization. Right now, it's interesting when I look at the membership, we have a lot of manufacturers, we have
Mhm.
distributors, we have reps. We don't have hardly any end users, which I want to change. So we're going to be doing some marketing campaigns to try to bring in our end
That's
users.
surprising. That's surprising. I mean, maybe I could think maybe because your network was that, but I think the end user is that's a big market.
It's fascinating
Yeah.
because it showed us this is what it showed us is that our channel, we keep wanting to reach our end user, our customer, but we are not connected to our customer.
Mhm.
And we are separated because we are not a diverse sales channel, but our customers are typically of diversity. So we have to bridge this gap, right? And so that is part of it, but also our customer base doesn't see us, they don't see themselves as being part of the electronic component industry. They see themselves, say, if you have a medical account, they'll say, "Oh, I'm in the medical industry." So, what we're trying to do is come up with some marketing campaigns
Mhm.
where we're going to start with medical and we're going to reach those women who work for these medical companies and try to pull them in. Another thing, we don't have a lot of engineers. We're dying to get more engineers into our organization. And the beauty of that is we have a national chapter program. Right now, I think we have about 15 or 16 chapters and growing, but we would love to have forums.
Yep.
We would love to have opportunities for women in all aspects of the channel to talk, to hear from the end user, to hear from the engineers, to hear from the salespeople, to connect people and have these forum discussions, be so fun. So we're trying to build it up. So we encourage anybody listening, reach out to your colleagues, reach out to your end users, your design engineer friends, pull them in, and just all aspects of the channel.
I think that's extremely fascinating, and how dynamic women electronics is. I mean, that is you're pivoting, you're dynamic, racing the change, but as well as you. Sometimes you think you have your messages out there, and you say you're having challenge with the end user, but you think, hey, why wouldn't they be a part of it? But
Mhm.
again, it's the knowledge education
Yep.
of saying there everybody's welcome because in electronics, I mean, it's great. The medical field is very important in the day and
Yes.
age this year, especially this year. But all the other sectors, the tech sectors, we are in the business of hardware.
Yes.
Every piece, every any type of gadget electronic has a piece of hardware, from a semiconductor, electromechanical, a connector,
Yep.
whatever it goes into, and these build the system that the software goes into. And right
Yes.
now,
Right.
the software is the sexy part, but how do we bring the sexiness back to the hardware? Where
Yes.
the women electronics, I think, is some of the messages, the bringing the beauty and the sexy back into this industry
Yes.
and the awareness of it.
We're pretty passionate about that. That's one of my hot spots, to tell you
Mm.
the truth, because number one, I love the industry, love the people, love the way it operates. And I just think we're the best hidden secret, unfortunately. But Michael Knight and I have talked about this, a lot of industry leaders. Michael talks at UT. He's trying to get recruitment in that area. So that kind of inspired me to start talking to some colleges around our area. And what we're trying to develop is actually part of our national chapter program is to have our chapters start aligning with their different colleges to try to pull in the youth more. So it's a massive effort, but we're going through it very strategically. In fact, I just had some great discussions with UCI about a potential partnership there too. So we're doing our part. It's very exciting. We got to get out there, start talking to the colleges, let them know there is a opportunity in our industry, and a great opportunity over the next 5 to 10 years, because we're going to have 70% leadership turnover. That is huge in an industry. So anybody graduating right now, this is the best moment in time. They could not be getting into an industry at a better time, when the industry as a whole is trying to make changes. The industry is trying to accept inclusion and diversity. The industry is open to changes, and we're at the same time moving forward. So a lot of our leaders are going to be retiring. We need new leaders coming up. It's going to be a fast forward for a lot of these young people coming in. So it would behoove them to get into our industry.
That right there is the aha moment, that the career is endless. I mean, right there, it's sky's the limit.
Yes.
Careers are available. This is a very dynamic industry, very, forward moving, and as electronics are moving faster, moving forward and forward, um, in the next 5 years, the electronic spend will double to
Yes.
triple. And this is the exciting field that you want to be in, because this is, well, the monetary comes with that. The more money you
Yes.
spent, the more people R&D, the more, and embodying the awareness of women electronics bringing that's it's fantastic. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love your enthusiasm behind it. It's
Oh, thank you.
unbelievable. I mean, it's
Thank you.
so fascinating listening to you. And that's one thing I love. I love it. You're a thought leader for the women. You're a thought leader in the electronics industry. You've had the experience. It's giving you, as I said, you're trying to give back now and trying to build the
Well, that's our
awareness. Yeah.
tagline, by the
Yeah.
way. Thought leadership powered by women.
There
That's
it
our
is.
tagline
See,
for
there
women in
it
electronics. You just named it.
is.
So yeah, moving beyond that, our final goal is empower. And that's just
Mhm.
what we're talking about right now, is all of our opportunities to have different events. One of our big events is our Women in Electronics Conference, which, not just because I put it together, I just have to say it is really one of the best conferences you could go to. And the reason is the content is so relevant and so good. And basically it's almost life changing. So you come to a Women in Electronics Conference, and it never leaves you. You leave home, but it doesn't quite leave you, because there's so many aha
Mhm.
moments. There's so many things that women learn about themselves, about other people. And it's just, this is a leadership journey. It's not a one and done. So we have to continually keep trying and trying to better ourselves. But the beauty is, you have this group of women who come together, and you have breakout sessions, and we're rolling up our sleeves, and we're talking about the industry, and we're digging down with ourselves, and we're really motivated to strive higher and do more. And to see people come together that have never met in the industry, for years being in the industry,
Like-minded so it's like yeah, it's amazing.
and just see these friendships forming is absolutely unbelievable. So we're starting things like wine with we have one coming up Wednesday, tomorrow night, I think it is, at 4 Pacific time. So we have all these different events. Walking with we have all these different things. We really, including our chapters, we really want to bring the women together and get them to feel comfortable. We're finding in our industry, retention is a big issue as well. So you might get youth, you might get women in, but it's about a 2-year time span, and they're gone. So we're hoping that the more people connect, we will keep them in the industry.
Well, I think with right now the pivot to digital, everything's being digital, and I think we're
Mhm.
going to be in this for about 6 months to a year to 2 years. We
Yes.
don't know how long we'll be in the right place of not having be able to, because as a sales rep or in the sales field, you have to
Mhm.
visit customers, you have to get in front of engineers, and now that
Right.
everything's virtual, digital, but a lot more people are spending more screen time. Everything's
Right.
on the screen. So now, as yourself, you're embracing the change and being digital, going to you doing these podcasts and getting the awareness out there, and also building the content.
Yes.
Content, it will bring the awareness, and
Mhm.
targeting it
Yes.
to your audience that you want to do will really educate them to bring, hey, come together,
Mhm.
because it's hard. We can't all meet up right now. We don't know how you can have your
Right.
next actual conference together. It's being virtual,
Yes.
but also keeping the retention of that virtualness is how long can you keep someone engaged on a screen. And that's the thing I have with our my experiences, even with our teams, are having meetings or webinars internally or externally. How can people engage the whole time? How can you, because when you're at a conference, you can get up, you go to the restroom, you have a drink, you kind of zone out, get on
Mhm.
your phone. I mean, this happens, but
Yes.
when you're in front of a computer the whole time, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm done now.
Yes.
And it's maybe the subject it's maybe a subject you're not really tuned into, or the speak or something. It happens. We all are like that. We're not engaged.
Mhm.
As I say out of a conference, we probably only take about 30 to 40% of what we heard back home with
Right.
us, because we can't encode and take it in. We just can't memorize it. It has to be repetitive for us to learn.
Yes.
But overall, but I think that the way you're going around it, the way you're trying to target it, and this time,
Right.
being a leader, as you're saying, thought leader, women in electronics, I think this is the perfect time to the launch pad for you to excel
Mhm.
into the awareness of the program. And as of myself, whatever we can do, as this is my business, this is my business, my blood is in electronics industry, distribution, supply chain. I'll get the awareness out to everybody, because we all win together. We
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
all win
It's
together. We're
true.
all in this. It's not like we just came in this. Kim started this
Right.
business last year, and it's very hard to start a business from zero today in this industry. Everybody's
Right.
got, and you hit some of those points of successions happening. Everybody's going to come in, and
Yeah.
there is positions
Yes.
as development happens, because electronics is getting more and more R&D happens. And I love how you did with UCI. That's
Oh,
fantastic. I love how you're going to tag along with them. That's good. I hope that's a success for that.
I hope so too. And not just them, but other colleges too. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do a pilot, and hopefully that gets going, and we'll do it with all around the country. All it has to do is have somebody to put the thought and the momentum behind it, and it can happen. So we're going to be the ones to spark it. We're actually going to be collaborating with the industry as well, with
Mhm.
ERA and ECIA. They've
Okay,
been
good.
very supportive of our program. So we're all going to come together in a collaborative effort to make sure we're all on board with doing something collaboratively for the industry. So this is actually really exciting, and I think it can make a difference moving forward for years to come. Because also the point I want to make is the people that are going to be retiring, that are here now, we can't replace them. If you think of where they started, where the industry has changed, what they know, that knowledge, I mean, it's irreplaceable. We need to get those people involved, as many leaders we have, male, female, we need them all coming into our program to start mentoring as much as possible, because it's a little scary to
Mhm.
think of a lot of these leaders leaving with all the breadth of knowledge they have. And I think we take it for granted sometimes, but it's really valuable. It's invaluable.
Well, it's invaluable. And as of last week, having a podcast with my father, and all the information that we learned, and all the background and what he learned, and I can say, if you just take that by 100,000, all the other
Yes.
people similar to
Oh,
that, and at this point, it's trying to make people comfortable. And if we can't get them at least in a video, interview them. That's my goal is too, is to bring a lot of these leaders, a lot of these business
yeah.
owners who started companies 20, 30, 40 years ago, especially the family business, and bring on those people to give their leadership advice of what they've gone through, challenges, at least. Because if
Yes.
we can't educate, or if they can't bring on new people, at least spread the message
Yes.
of what we're doing and what we're doing moving forward. And that was my goal. I mean, that's what I've been trying to connect. I've been using it to platforms, digital, online, to connect to a lot of people, say, hey, I would like to have you on. I love about your company and research about it. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like prospecting sales, but I'm prospecting someone to bring on for
Right.
interviews. And that for yourself, I think that's what you're trying to connect as well, as connecting with everybody. Which a thought came to my mind is also is like the schools is like MIT, like these
Yes.
technical
For
institutes,
sure.
because there is diversity, there is women too as engineers,
Mhm.
and to bring all those on, as well
Yes.
as the men. There are men there, but it's as I said, back when I was at school, it was like, oh, that person's engineers, they're nerdy or this and that. And I was a little nerdy too when I was at school. I
Yeah.
was into building racing cars and building things, and that's how I was, but everything changed. But that
Yeah.
information, and that skill set, it really went to my career to
Yes.
understand
Yeah.
and to make analytical decisions, to solve problems, solve solutions, and also wanted to
Mhm.
learn,
Yes.
right?
So one of the interesting things is going back to the college effort.
Yeah.
We created a membership for college students,
Mhm.
and so it's $75 for a year. So they get
Oh,
to
wow.
participate in all of our programs. Come in, get mentored, be mentored. The whole program. We would love to have them in, get them in the Spark program, and hopefully keep them in our industry after graduation. So that would be the goal. So we're going to really align with our sponsorship companies to try to get them pulled in more, and have a lot of eligible applicants when they graduate. So we're
Well,
excited
so
to
we
get this
heard it
going.
here. So for all college students, and especially technical and engineers, you get a 1-year membership for $75.
$75. Yes.
Oh, wow. And you can be part of the association. all the leadership, all the
Yes.
tools,
Yes.
everything out there, and learn from thought leaders like yourselves and other
Yes.
people in industry that can give them also a pathway, a career, which way to choose, which way to go if they're going to go
Mhm.
to manufacturing or distribution or these sides. So I think that's great. I mean, that's free. I mean,
Yes.
these subscriptions these days are so expensive. So
Yes.
it's so inexpensive, and it's amazing what you can do and what you're doing for the new youth out there.
Right. So we just encourage to, wrap things up as many companies in our industry, as many we're trying to reach semi companies as
Mm,
well. We have IP&E, but we don't
yeah,
have the semi side. We need sponsors. We
yeah.
need, people to get behind us because this is a massive effort. And one of the things I didn't mention is we're going global. So in fourth quarter, we should be doing a pilot program in Europe. And then beyond that, 2021, we want to launch globally. So we really need the support of the industry. It's a massive effort. We need a lot of support. We're going to try to be building our membership. In the meantime, we need industry support. So any companies that want to
Well,
get behind us,
we're 100% behind you. I have some members that think so. We can talk offline about that, but I would love to be involved, especially in Southeast Asia. We're very big,
Awesome.
and as I said, we have a diversity, 80% women mostly there, and
Mhm.
they're all leaders, engineers as well,
Right.
and they would love to be part of this type of program. And we
Yeah.
can also hopefully be a launch pad for the women
Yes.
electronics in
Yes.
Asia as well. So
Yes.
it's fascinating what we can do and the technology and how you can expand awareness.
And
So
when we come
yeah,
together,
come
really,
together.
we're
Yeah,
better together. That was
we're,
the theme of one of our conferences. One of the first conferences is better
but
together.
yeah.
And it was the women coming together and being better together and celebrating each other. And the bummer is this last conference and for 2020 that we're now postponing till November and having a satellite
Mhm.
model. But our theme for that was even better together because we were having some of the guys come and this all of us better together. So we will reconvene with that
Yeah.
in 2021. But
Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Well, thank you. As I said, thank you, Jackie. This has been extremely informative,
okay.
extremely fascinating, and what we want to do. And as I said, I'll love to. IBS Electronics would love to work with women electronics
You
to
heard
bring the
it.
awareness. We love to bring awareness, bring it out there. We're 100% behind this because for me, this is the industry that we need to bring in new talent, bring in the education, and it's a winning industry.
Yes.
So don't think it's all the sexiness of this. It's not so, but we're going to take it to the next level.
Yes.
And
It's an
yeah,
industry with a heart. And so that's what hasn't been
yes,
communicated enough. But if you look at the men and the women in the industry, especially the people who have called their career home in the electronic component industry, it is an industry with a real heart. And so if that is what I can communicate and get more people in, and if they can have the kinds of relationships I've had and developed over the years, that would just be amazing.
that's you nailed it. That was it. That was it. It's a heart. We have a home, and we're here for
Yes.
the electronic industry is welcoming everybody, all ages, diversity through it.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what it is. We're welcoming it because we need other leaders, other
Yes.
future leaders in our industry, and other people who can take this business and this, distribute this to another level,
Yes.
and bring in the
Yes.
awareness and be bring the sexiness like the Googles, the Microsofts, and the Apples out there. Because in my opinion, we should be. We
Yeah.
are. If we are. This microphone has components that we
Yes.
distribute or designed into it. This
Yes.
is what it is. So don't think it's just this. So this is what it is. But
Yeah.
once again, thank you, Jackie, for your time.
Thank you.
I love this, and we will soon doing another one soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you
Thanks
for
a lot.
having me.
Thank you.